WeSurf is recorded by the Newsstand Studio in Rockefeller Center in the heart of Manhattan and is produced and distributed by the Swell Seasons Surf Radio Podcast Network. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the WeSurf podcast. I am your co-host, Kwame La Bassiere. I'm going to give you a bit of a sneak peek behind the curtain of what happens at the podcast. We don't always release the episodes in the order that they were recorded. We may end up sitting on an episode for a week, 2 weeks, sometimes a few months, as we try to judge the best time for it to be released. And that's the case with this one. This episode is with Dr. Giovanni Martinez, who is the founder of Surf4Dem, an organization in Puerto Rico which shows the therapeutic benefits of surfing for kids with autism. And with April being National Autism Awareness Month, we figured that this would be one of the best times to release this. Giovanni was our host for the International Surf Therapy Organization, and apart from being a doctor, business owner, running his nonprofit organization, he's also an amazing guy, and I highly encourage you to listen to this one. And as surfers, especially in the East Coast, we head to Puerto Rico all the time to go surf. If you ever are down there, reach out to Giovanni, reach out to Surf4Dem, and see how you can help out. Every little bit helps. Give a little bit back to the community. This was a very, very interesting conversation where we speak about how surfing releases dopamine, serotonin, can reduce anxiety, depression, increases muscle tone, and the like. I learned a lot from listening to Giovanni speak. And I'm sure you will as well. So sit back, relax, enjoy, and I'll hand you over to Dr. Giovanni Martinez. Okay, thank you everyone for joining us again. I went home, came back, and I'm here again. And the main reason I came back was because at the conference, I met Giovanni in person for the first time. I was like, I need to get this guy on the podcast. So hopped on a plane, came down. So please welcome my next guest. It is Dr. Giovanni Martinez. I always start introducing people, but I figure you guys can introduce yourselves best. So I'll let you do it, Giovanni.
Thank you, Kwame. And I'm actually looking forward to see you again. I'm glad that we're seeing each other so soon. Yes, my name is Dr. Giovanni Martinez. I'm a clinical psychologist down here in Puerto Rico. I clinically work with kids with autism. In terms of my family, I have a brother with Down syndrome who inspired me to prepare myself professionally to work with kids with developmental disabilities. Being a surfer my whole life. Usually I started, I think, when I was like 11 years old, just to do stand-up surf.
Right.
Boogie boarding, we are exposed to it since we are very young. But then at 11, I started doing surfing as one of the sports. At my house, we kind of believe a lot in sports. And my dad used to be coach of baseball and basketball. So my family is very oriented into sports. And when I catch up surfing, when I was a young kid, I understood that it was helping me and my brother a lot. Did not understand why.
Right.
I thought at that moment, just experience, of being out there in the ocean with
it's
nature.
Just fun.
And that you felt really well when you finished. Better than finishing a good basketball game or a baseball game. There was a difference.
Right.
I started realizing that between sports, there were other sports that could be more profound in the effect that I had when you practice it. So later on, of course, developed nonprofit organization to help kids with disabilities down here in Puerto Rico, especially kids that have a diagnosis of the autism spectrum disorder.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's great. So just so our listeners know as well. So one of the things which kind of pulled Giovanni to me, or why I was so interested, is because my nephew is actually on the spectrum as well. And so he is autistic. And I just, even before I realized what was happening with the fascination with water, I would, paddle out with him on a long SUP. Right. And, we would just sit down there, and I would turn to him and say, "You okay?" "Yeah." "Okay." I'll push him. And then within 3 minutes, just talk. He was telling me about every single thing that happened for his day, his week, his month, his year. I'm like, okay, now the trick is trying to get you to keep quiet so we can paddle back. But, something about being out there just, pulled it out in him. And he just became so calm, and like he just related so much with the ocean with it. So when I heard that you started the organization Surf4Dem, working with autistic kids, I said, oh, this is something I really need to speak to Giovanni about this. And then the presentation you did. So those of you, again, who don't know, Giovanni was our keynote speaker at the ISTO conference. Yeah. So the presentation that you did, that was amazing. And the other part why I wanted you to be on the show as well, and I'll reiterate this at the end of it, the other part which I wanted you to be on the show as well is because, so I live in New York. I grew up in the Caribbean, and I remember so many times, when my mom would say, okay, I'm going shopping, or I'm going Christmas shopping, or whatever, she would come to Puerto Rico. Because for us, this was our first stop before we went to mainland US. This is our immigration stop before we went to mainland US. And it was why are we going even further? Let's just stay in Puerto Rico. We're in the US, quote unquote, but at the same time, we're still in the Caribbean. So let's stay here. So I've been coming here for years, and I know a lot of New Yorkers who come to Puerto Rico, especially Aguadilla, to surf. Yeah. And one of the things which I want to impress upon our listeners is that, yes, you can come here, but then there are also, because everyone wants to help. And then, they'll say, oh, how can I help? How can I help? And that's why I wanted you to be on the show. Because I'm like, well, here is a man that you can actually reach out to and say, yes, I would like to offer my assistance. But I'm jumping ahead. So let's backtrack a little bit. Yes. Tell me exactly how you started Surf4Dem.
Well, Surf4Dem started from a research study I did with the medical sciences campus at the University of Puerto Rico. Mm-hmm. So to make the story kind of short.
Please go ahead.
2009, I was able to finally publish my dissertation. Mm-hmm. And it was the first time that exploratory research study, IRB approved, was done in terms to see if the practice of surfing had some therapeutic benefits on the individuals. So that was my base. And I found out that when we practice surfing at least twice a week, your clinical symptomatology of anxiety and depression lowers statistically significantly. So it's nothing that is only something that we say or feel. We can actually measure it.
Okay.
And for many years, I knew, as I know you do also, that it was very therapeutic for us to be in the water, but nobody had the time or maybe the expertise to sit down and really actually look at it from a scientific standpoint. Mm-hmm. And from my preparation, since I'm a clinical psychologist, I have a PhD. I did the 2 years more in research, my doctorate degree. And I was really focused on getting data to people. Why? Surf had this stereotype for many years, not a positive one. Even in my family at first, when I told my dad, look, I think I prefer to go surfing than maybe playing more basketball and baseball. And his face was like, disfiguring, like, what are you talking about, Because it was not even recognized as an official sport at that point in time. I'm 45 right now, so it's been a long story, but a good one. So at that point in time, I really want our society, at least in Puerto Rico, to kind of start breaking that stereotype of the surfer and to see the ocean as a place, for example, when I spent a year in Hawaii when I was a young guy because of surf. And I saw a culture driven to the sea and that everything was planned in relation to the sea. But
Right.
then Puerto Rico is an island that doesn't conduct itself like an island. We are people, and I kind of talk about this a little bit in my keynote speak. Our symbol is a jibaro, and jibaro is a person that comes from the mountain. So yes, of course, we are an island, but we don't actually maximize the use that we have of the ocean in terms of sports, activities, even in my opinion, in the industry of traveling and vacation and everything like that. Yes, they kind of put it out there, but we don't. There's a lot of people in Puerto Rico don't even know how to swim. So that was one of my first kind of views that I can really put some data out there that's going to be significant. And we got it. And that was, let's say, the base for me to start doing other kinds of research. So later on, I was an adjunct professor of the University of Puerto Rico for many years. I got some funds to do the first exploratory research on how surfing could actually work therapeutically with kids with autism.
Okay.
So we did the first study worldwide. It was an exploratory one. Not a huge study, just something that we could, in a year, get the data in order for us to build programs and keep developing research. And we found out that more than social communication skills getting better, sensory processing disorders getting better, muscular tone getting better, that focus you have to learn in schools, getting better. Families finally saying, look, I'm going back to a restaurant because he's tolerating the environment. Sensory-wise, he's dealing better.
Yeah.
He's more communicative with us in terms of physically, eye contacts, and even verbally. I won't say that I'm going to guarantee that your kid is going to verbalize, but it's been happening very often in our program. Because we found out that when we are standing up in the surfboard, we are activating areas of the brain that goes with the vestibulary functions that are very sensory also wise. It's one of our senses. And if we are able to stimulate that area often, then all these skills that I need that area of my brain to work well, I can develop. And language is one of them. So when we are standing up in a surfboard, when we're talking about kids that have some kind of language disability, let's say it in general, more than autism, because this is going to work with any single kid that has some speech or language disorder. We are activating Broca and Wernicke, which are two areas of the brain that has to communicate in terms of being able to verbalize. So I think we are stimulating very good areas of the brain when we are doing surfing. We found out, and this is an ongoing research on the properties of the seawater, salt water, which are very high in negative ions. And we kind of knew that, but we didn't know that when the waves were breaking, it was exacerbating that productions of negative ions.
Really?
And that's why when we were surfing and we got waves, that mist that we call salitre in Spanish, it's actually negative ions that we're breathing. And they go to the lungs, they go to the bloodstream, they will alkaline our blood, which is something that we all look for, in terms of how I eat properly, in terms of having my body doing better. And then neurologically, it does something that is really astonishing. It liberates dopamine and serotonin. That will lower our anxiety and depression in terms of symptomatology. And if you are actually surfing bigger waves and you put in that mixed adrenaline, it kind of exponentially goes better. It kind of, what the research is saying is it prolongs that exacerbation or that productions of negative ions kind of prolongs more time. Because one of the things that we were looking at our studies in Puerto Rico is, okay, let's say that kid acquired a skill. Is it for a couple of days? Is it something that already he has as a skill in his life? And we actually found out that the ones that were practicing it every single week or at least a period of 3 months, they were acquiring skills for the day by day, which was astonishing for me as a clinical psychologist, because sometimes it's really hard in terms of psychotherapy or clinically to work with some populations. And we cannot limit ourselves to an office. At least that's my point of view. I got other environments that are better in terms of stimulating my patients. So I started more focusing now clinically on the clinical evaluation That's my expertise.
Mhm.
I will tell families if the kid has or doesn't have the diagnosis of autism, and then put a lot of effort on bringing all these patients and kids to the ocean. So that's the balance that I have right now in terms of my work. So I do all this clinical work at the office, which is super important in terms of schools, get the proper education in schools and therapies, the classical therapies, which I do believe in them very much. Speech therapy, occupational therapy, physical therapy. We do have some therapies with feeding disorders.
Okay.
This is very important in Puerto Rico. We call it dysphagia in Spanish. It's a very important one. In autism, sensory-wise, there's a lot of resistancy to new foods or textures or temperature.
Right. Yes.
And we have a specific therapy down here in Puerto Rico that works with that. And that was also something that was helping a lot. But we all know that when we go surfing to the ocean, we go out, we are super hungry. We're hungry.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's very interesting, like the things you've been talking about, like right now, because, like you're saying that, well, first to start off about the negative stereotype that not just with surfers, but also with surfing on a whole, and I say this all the time, that so many people, when they think of surfers or surfing, they think of burnouts, people who are just either doing drugs, don't have jobs, just want to spend their entire life doing nothing but surfing up and down the coast and then stealing money because they saw Point Break and then running off to go and surf. And I'm always trying to tell people that is not true. There are so many people that I've come across, that some of the most intelligent people I've ever come across have been in that mindset and in that area. And they will break it down for you in a certain way. And like, these are things, like you said, we already know. We know when we go surfing, we feel so much better. And it's not just that, oh yes, I just need to get out of the house, because I can get out of the house and go walking up and down the street. But actually surfing, and like you so eloquently put, breathing in those negative ions, which alkalines our body, which is something that if you go to the store, they will sell you that bottle of water for what, $40, and then say, oh yeah, it has alkaline, it's an alkalated bottle of water, so yeah, you can buy it. Meanwhile, if you just jump on a surfboard and just paddle out
we can produce it ourselves.
We can produce it ourselves,
of course.
So yeah, that is I think that's the mistake a lot of people make with that when it comes to those things. So the fact that, again, you and your colleagues are doing this research and getting this research done, and being able to say, here is the research. I'm not just saying it because I like to surf. I actually have the research and the data to back it up.
And I kind of felt that I had to prove it at some point. And it was okay. I don't mind. I think having that need make us go deeper into understanding what was really happening and why we were having such good results. I think only the area that more people want to come every time, or they want to stay, or they can come from any part of the island, kind of let us know that we're doing a good job, of course. But we wanted to present more data about it, and really tell parents, look, you're not taking a risk if you come to surf therapy. You're actually providing your kid with an opportunity so unique that it's gonna literally blow your minds, because this is what's been happening for the past 10 years.
Okay.
So Surf4Dem, 2023 was the 10-year anniversary. We did the 10-year anniversary of being registered as a nonprofit organization. Obviously, we've been many years working with groups and doing it more informally. But as a nonprofit organization that was built after a research study, which I think from that sense, Surf4Dem is very unique. Most organizations will start doing their programs, and at some point will look for support to do research, just to measure their variables and their programs. We went the opposite direction. We say, no, look, we have to prove this, So let's go very silently with a small group of kids and just work with them 2 times a week for a long period of time, was a year, and then we'll measure. Then we'll establish if our therapies really were helping. And by the 3 months, school directors, speech therapists of these kids were calling us, asking us, what are you doing? And we were like, we're taking them surfing.
Like,
and
what
it
did
was
you do?
So funny because I had to repeat myself at least 3 times. Excuse me? I'm like,
oh, I can imagine that conversation.
Do you say surfing? And I was like, yes, okay. So then I explain everything. And I think at that point, also my title kind of helped, because before having my doctors, when I put out there, look, I want to go more in deep and do more research, and everybody was ignoring me like bluntly. Nobody like, yes, Giovanni, you can go surfing, no worries. And I'm like, oh, look, I'm in a stage of life different. I've done this professionally. I've done this as a free surfer, which is one of the best stages of surfing that I had. People think it's the competitive area. No, it's not. It's when you're able to travel the world and just surf and meet people and meet cultures. And then the next stage was, if surf helped me so much, you know, and my family also, because my brother and things like that, and my friends, we now have to give back, you know. As a surfers, we do have a responsibility, and it goes way more than protecting our shores and talking about how surfing is good and teaching it to our kids now. No, look, if we know that we have this magnificent tool, we have to develop it, and we have to have a program that can run the whole year. And that's something very unique also of Puerto Rico. 80 degrees year round, you know. We don't have shark attacks. We don't have like hazard things in the water that is not the waves and the currents by itself, you know. So it's very accessible to surfing in Puerto Rico. Yes, of course, we are an island. Most of our beaches will have rocks. Then we will select what place will be the best one.
Yeah, you're not just going to send them out randomly.
And the last study we did in Puerto Rico, we have, if I'm not mistaken, and I'm going to throw it out there, 2,187 beaches in the island. So we have a lot. But then surf therapy is so unique that I do it in Hobos Beach, Isabela.
Actually, I was just going to ask you about that. So where exactly you do the surf therapy, and when you first started it, because I imagine you didn't just like roll up and say, okay, we're going to do surf therapy on this beach, and everyone's like, okay, yeah, great, come on down. Because for those of you, again, who are listening, who don't know Hobos Beach, it's, you know, you go down there and it is a popular break. It's a very popular break. So I would imagine you wouldn't, if you just roll up with and said, oh, I'm just going to do surf therapy right here. So were there any challenges that you faced as you started off there?
Well, the first challenge was when we went to the IRB, and for people that don't know that term, is the ethical office at the universities that will regulate research. They will tell you if you can or you cannot do your research. They told me I had to do analysis of the beaches in Puerto Rico so I could select the best option. That took us a while. I have to tell you, I'm going to be honest. It took us a while, that exploratory area, and that it had to fill all these areas. It had to be sand bottom. It has to be accessible. It can be a balneario, which is a name that we give when a beach is from the state. And you have lifeguards and things like that because they don't have waves. It has to be consistent year round. It had a lot of variables. And then we finally got to Hobos. For us, we kind of knew that was going to be one of the top 3 options, but that was the top option. And if we want to be responsible, we have to go to the best place. If we are doing something clinically, like as a therapy, because we also do like one-shot events. Those one we can do anywhere on the island because it's one day. We will measure the variables. We'll adapt some areas of how we do it and maybe get other equipments, but we can do it elsewhere. So usually we go to the south coast of the island to a municipality which is very low in resources called Patillas. We have done a couple of events down there. We go to the city, sometimes to Piñones or Isla Verde, which are 2 places that we can do some therapy. And then we got other areas as Arecibo and Rincon, but usually it's in Isabela where we run the program. In terms of challenges, I'll tell you that since we were coming in with proposals from the University of Puerto Rico, kind of doors open more. Because the University of Puerto Rico has a lot of support in Puerto Rico and is very good view in terms of it's the best university we have on the island. And we have different campus on the island. So when we went to the municipality to ask for permissions and natural resources, everybody was like, yes, of course. We were having the insurance of the university, all the like documents and things that they needed were provided. I think the challenge was when we finished the research and we went to establish a nonprofit and then try to look for our own insurance and other things. That one kind of took a little bit because nobody in Puerto Rico has asked for that before. We were the first ones. So we had to start talking with companies in the United States that maybe were giving this kind of insurance to surface healing,
Right.
or maybe to other organizations like the Jimmy Miller Foundation. And through those organizations that were already receiving insurance, we were able to create our own insurance down here. So insurance, and we are in an island, costs a lot. People don't know it, but it is costs a lot. And apart from that, I didn't have a challenge of getting people into the program. In Puerto Rico, there's a lot of need. And we have less data. If you are a boy, it's more or less between every 37 kids, one will already have autism. If you are a girl, between 151, one will have autism. It's more or less the same data that the United States have. We cannot relate on the same data. So we have a lot of kids with autism. And well, as you've seen, it's not that we are really, really struggling economically, but there's a lot of families in Puerto Rico that don't have the money to pay for therapies. And if the government cannot provide those services, then they don't have service. So in terms of participants, we are super lucky because I hear that in a lot of organizations worldwide, the difficulty sometimes is getting the population to the beach. We don't have any. I have to be careful when I announce an activity that there are not too many people walking in, because I want to have the specific group and being able to work with each single kid that comes into the beach, And so Surf4Dem is doing that. It's still getting some data in research-wise. It's still doing a clinical program that runs once every single week. And we do like special events where we bring live music. We put ramps of skateboarding because we believe also a lot in skateboarding. At some point, we have been able to bring courses of therapy or EPO or echinotherapy and just other things for kids and families, completely free. I don't know if people know, but Surf4Dem doesn't charge for their services at all. And I'm not criticizing anybody in terms of nonprofits, but we kind of live by the role that we are a nonprofit. So everybody has their jobs. And we all serve, even myself, as a volunteer to our organization. What did I find out with that dynamic? That I really was able to recruit the best people. People that really wanted to be there.
I was just going to say, people that wanted to be there, not just like afterthoughts.
Not somebody's looking for maybe an stipend or salary. That's not wrong. I'm not criticizing it. But I really needed a team that was all in. Like, no, I believe in this. I'm going to be there every single week because it's not easy. Let's state this like right now. Surf therapy has beautiful results on the kid or the human being that's receiving it, but it is a big toll on the surf therapist who is providing the service. So let me tell you this: for many years that I did surf therapy, a lot of hours during Saturdays, there was no way I could surf a Sunday, even if waves were perfect. My body was not able to. Just recuperation mode, literally. But we work with a lot of families, sometimes between 30 and 45 each Saturday. So it's a lot of times that we go into the water. And we go in small groups. It's individual. It's a one-on-one with every single kid. I think that's the way to do it when you're working with kids with disabilities. You have to be in a one-on-one tandem, life vest on. We have been able to take out the life vest and teach surfing to other participants with our more in the Asperger's area of the high functioning of autism, and do have the abilities physically and in terms of making good decisions. In surfing, it's all about making decisions. At the moment, you kind of don't have time for it. If you think about it, you just missed the wave. Or got your ass kicked. Sorry for the expression.
No, please. You can say whatever you want. So again, to some of our listeners, so those of you who don't surf, there is it's always amusing to me when, I bring out somebody new I'm teaching them how to surf, and they say, well, how do you guys make it look so easy? I'm like, okay, let me explain something to you. For every second of us making us look easy, there's about 5 months of us falling flat on our ass while we try to do it. All right. So it's just doing it over and over and over again until your brain stops thinking and your body just reacts. It just happens. So yeah, so working with kids and working with adults and getting them to get to that point where now they're reacting as opposed to, okay, I need to do this, then I need to do this, then I need to do this, then I need to do this. And then by that time, the wave is like already crashed way away on the beach.
Humans beings, we tend to be overthinkers.
Yes, we are overanalytical.
I think everybody,
Yes.
And surfing teaches you actually in life to go for it. In terms of my experience and most of my friends, it teaches you to don't hesitate. You have to go for it. Sometimes you'll make it. Sometimes you'll not. That's life. It's okay. Something that I teach my families also. Another unique thing about Surf4Dem in terms of if we compare to other organizations, since I come from a family that I have a brother with a condition, I know how important is the system, the family. So our therapy, yes, of course, we go into the water with the kid, but we are teaching parents to surf also. We're taking them into the water. It's not an obligation.
Right.
It's something that if you want to go or the extra mile in terms of being in the water with your kid, we want to be
that's amazing.
Your instrument,
Yeah.
And I think it gives also our program some continuation in terms that families now feel more comfortable to go to the beach.
Right. Yes.
Parents will go more into the water now with their kids. And for me, that's a continuation of my therapy. If you keep going to the beach, even though if you're not surfing, you are in the environment by itself is really therapeutic. So I want families to feel more comfortable. We have been able to educate the areas near our beaches in terms of the population on how to manage a kid with autism in a good and a bad day also. Because there's good and bad days, there could be crisis. Families need help when they are having a crisis with their kids. And that may be in one of the restaurants near the beach. That could be in the parking lot. Because in the beach, we always take care of it.
Yeah.
And that's how we show everybody. There's no crisis. Okay, he's having a meltdown. Maybe it's a sensory. If I'm calm and I'm able, in terms of my surf therapy, calm that kid in front of everybody down there, everybody is understanding. They just need something else. They need more space. Maybe the parents, they just need a hand in order for that kid to calm down. Because I'll tell you this, the first month of research, when kids were yelling at the beach, all eyes were on us. Well, still all eyes are on us. But at that moment, we was like, are you hurting that kid? Something is happening. Do I have to intervene? And we were always like, people know us, of course. We locals down here. So we were like, no, give me a break. Like, I'm just working with it.
Yeah.
You'll see what happens. And give me a while. And we have been able to prove that even a kid, and this is maybe something I want to say to people that are starting right now. You can't stop. We do have a very beautiful tool, surf therapy, that if you take that kid and you put your heart into it and you make him feel comfortable in the water, that negative ions, your protection and the experience will calm him down.
Calm him down, yes.
It'll take a couple of minutes. Yes, of course. You just be calm. Tell him he does listen. I'm here for you. You have a training for surfers, and how we do this. And we talk to our kids a lot.
Yeah.
We stimulate them a lot, sensory wise. If we do compressions, we liberate oxytocin, which is a neurotransmitter that will calm our central nervous system a little bit. So in terms of sensory wise, it will also a little bit, it's not going to delete the crisis, but it's going to calm that kid down.
Right.
And something I can guarantee you, at least in our program, and I've been able to replicate it in Dominican Republic, in other places. If you give me an hour, he will come back smiling. Every single time, and it's been thousands of times. I'm not talking about hundreds. I'm talking about thousands of times. The same experience over and over again. So I feel very confident every time I'm taking a kid to the water, because I know at the end of that therapy session, he's going to do better.
Nice.
And that's my validation as a clinician. He's going to do better. That's why we keep doing it with a lot of enthusiasm even though we were hit by Hurricane Maria.
Right.
So most of you that don't know, we really struggled for a while. We're not talking about a storm. We were talking about a major hurricane that left this island destroyed for months. At that point, I was living in the city in a pretty nice neighborhood, let's say, which would be the first places to get everything back.
Right.
5 months.
Wow.
Not that it went on and off. I'm saying the first time we saw electricity again was 5 months after Hurricane Maria. So imagine everything else, you know, how we really struggled. And when we were getting better, then the earthquake starts in the south side of the island, which was really bad. And then we were getting better. Pandemia came, and then we're getting better again. So we're hoping nothing else
happened.
Not for now, you know.
Knock on wood.
Well,
Knock on wood. But
let me even kind of validates that we are very resilient. And I think that's a quality that you need nowadays more than ever. I'm not the guy who's the why us? No, it's like, okay, yes, we do have the ability to get back together. And even though they are coming continuously, we're still able to get in our feet and keep working hard and believing in what we're doing, and nobody's drifting away or going. A lot of people have left to the United States, you know, for more. What word we can use? I think people are looking for stability, and people feel that the States could be more stable than Puerto Rico. And at some point, yes, it's the correct answer. Depending what state, I'll say that. But yes, we are super proud of what we do.
And it comes across, and you should be, because the work you're doing is amazing. I mean, even just listening to you talk about, like, let's backtrack a second, just listening to you talk about Hurricane Maria. And, you know, so I think just before we started the podcast, I was giving you a quick story about myself and Maria. And, you know, so those of you, I think the majority of our listeners know, I was not born in the US. I was born on the island of Dominica, Commonwealth of Dominica. And my family, my sister, my brother, my sister's son, and my mother were living on the island at the time. And I remember having a conversation with my mom the day before it hit. And she said to me, the storm is coming. I don't know about this one. And I said to her, no, you'll be fine. Don't worry about it. You'll be fine. And then the storm hit. It went from a category 1 overnight to a category 5.
Yes.
So it not even quadrupled, it quintupled in strength. And it hit the island and stopped on the island. And so for close to 3 days, they were just getting pounded. And I didn't hear from these people afterwards for 2 weeks. So I had no idea what was happening. I didn't know where they were. I didn't know if they were alive. I saw pictures, and the pictures were like a bomb had gone off.
Yeah. I think that's the expression.
And then what happened right after that was it just made a beeline to Puerto Rico. It skipped every other island, just hit Puerto Rico and stopped again on top of the island.
Took 2 days to cross an island that generally is 100 by 35. It's a little bit more, but we use that expression, 100 by 35. We are a small island, you know, in relation to others. And in 2 days, man.
2 days.
It
made a beeline straight for Puerto Rico. And it wasn't like it slowed down, you know, next to Antigua or any of those. It just came and then stopped and stayed there.
That's right.
And just looking at what was coming out of it, I was like, oh my God. And then, like you said, right afterwards, earthquake. And then right afterwards, pandemic. So, yeah. So again, so those of you, I know right now, people may be trying to Google Surf4Dem as we're talking about it.
Yes.
So the actual spelling of it is SURF, the number 4, D as in dog, E, M as in Mary. How did you come up with that?
Good. So we were trying to find a name that in English sounded that we were surfing for them, as other people. But in Spanish, that acronym did have meaning. So in Spanish, I'll do a bad translation. We surf for the development of emotion and motor skills.
Okay.
So D for development, E for emotion, M for motor skills. Because when we started our research, those were the variables that we were actually trying to measure.
Okay.
areas of autism that do impact the life of kids will be their social communication skills. A lot of them, all these motor issues, and then stereotype movements, but that we know that are part of sensory and other things that we're getting help. So we're trying to develop a name that kind of have both meanings. And in English, it will be like people understand that they're surfing for them, but it will actually have a meaning in Spanish, very specific. So yeah, we don't want to confuse, because a lot of people when having a phone call and then I see the transcription, I'll see Surf4Dem, of course, and it's not bad. But thank you for doing that acclamation.
No, I love the name. I absolutely love it. I love the name. And we will put it in the show notes to make sure people are hitting the right website. But I loved it. When I saw it, I was like, that is, to me at least, that's a lot more memorable than THEM. So to me, it just rolls off. It just rolls off the way it's pronounced. So I love it. I absolutely love it. We're at the point now where I'm going to. Is there anything that you would like to address directly to our listener? You can. This is the point where you would do that now, and then I'm just going to ask you some really fast fire questions. They're really simple. Don't worry about it. Some really fast fire questions, and then give you the opportunity to ask me any question that you may have. If none, don't worry about it. We can continue talking because I'm having a great time speaking with you.
So I think I will try to speak to parents or families that have a kid with autism. It's my population. More than surf therapy, I got to really deep into surf therapy because of the population. Try things that, even though they sound irrational for some people, or that they are a crazy idea, but for some people, taking their kids with autism, 2 years old, in a surfboard is a crazy idea.
Yeah.
Just trust the process, and go for it, because we have been able to help thousands of families because they only say yes.
Right.
Because they gave their kid and themselves an opportunity in something different that was actually what make it change, or where their kids really clicked. And it could be other things, I know in the States they have therapies with dolphins, and as we do also with horses. I know there are new research studies of going barefoot in the mountains. We help you with negative ions also on grounding and other areas which are really important. It's not only school and the classical therapies and this and that in terms of my alimentation. There are other areas of the environment of your kid that if you are able to expose him, he will get better. And we're trying to do more this medical tourism here in Puerto Rico. Just pay attention to our pages, and in terms of Facebook or Instagram, we will try a new program, and we're trying to put it together for this summer to be able to receive families from other places in terms of coming a week or 2 weeks or even a month if they want to develop a program very exclusively for their kids. Because we kind of had an experience last summer with families from Florida. And in 3 weeks, we were able to, to address major situations.
3 weeks?
Yes.
Wow.
And it was also, for me, kind of astonishing. We did more sessions, 3 sessions per week, because I like to leave one day of like resting, and letting your body also process everything that has happened in your mind. And then I'll hit the water again, and then I'll do other activities with family, and then we'll do surf therapy again. So one was a message, yes, go for new things that actually are not things like pills or adverse therapies because they are putting magnetism in some areas. I'm not saying that doesn't work. I'm saying, look, we have other things.
There are other options
that are more driven to nature. And we all know how important nature is in our lives and how it can help us. So yes, of course. And there may be other areas of the brain or the system of your kid that we're going to be able to develop.
Nice. I actually have one more question, which I just remembered. As surfers, one of the things I subscribe to, and again, the research is there and the data is there, that, there are times when we surf, and especially if, let's say, we surf one day, and the next day, and the third day, Usually by day 4. Once, if whatever we were surfing is gone, we hit a wall. We hit that, okay, then you see people, that's when you see people starting to become depressed and they start to slump and so on. So as a person who surfs all the time, I always have to be very cognizant of that. Like, okay, yes, I'm going out surfing, the swell is coming. It's like 3 days straight. For us, when we have hurricane swell hit New York, we can literally surf from like September straight through every day until October. And then all of a sudden it will just stop. So my question then is, have you ever encountered when you're working with the children, let's say they surf one day or they surf a second day, have you ever encountered any point where if they don't come the next time, then it becomes an issue, or the parents call you and say, okay, here's what's happening. Can you explain to me what's going on with my child?
Yes, I will tell you this. I don't know if I can say that maybe that call was because the kid wasn't surfing, or maybe it was another crisis or another meltdown for something else. But I tell you from my experience that yes, of course, in any sport where you practice, you have a lot of liberation of dopamine. There's going to be a crash at some point when you don't have it. It's something we tell families just in case. Look, there could be a day that he feels more like tired or grumpy or something like that. It may be that dopamine is low now and we were high all the time. People do skydiving or any extreme sports tend to suffer a little bit from depression. It's kind of ironic, but it does happen a lot. Because at some point, if you're not able to access that often, it could happen. Maybe what you're saying right now, look, if you're in a place where it's so cold and or you don't have the waves for this point in time, that's why surfers, we travel so much.
Exactly.
I tell everybody, I tried to explain that to my parents when I was an adolescent. It's like, every single summer you're out. It's like, well, people relate summer to the beach, but we hate summer because it's the flat season. Well, it's not flat, but it's a small season.
It's a smaller season.
Summer for us, there's not many ways unless there are systems coming in and we don't want systems. So sometimes we prefer for the cold fronts right now or the good season for us. The best season is from September to March. It's a beautiful season in Puerto Rico, extremely consistent. Not with that, Rio Puerto down here in Aguadilla is so accessible for the people in the East Coast to go in and out in a swell. I think that much better now. Before you had to travel to San Juan.
Get to San Juan and drive over.
It's not that bad, but it's still other variables. So at some point, maybe, but not that much. I'll tell you.
Okay, good.
Impressive, from my point of view. I'll tell you a story that it's been on my mind. I have a nonverbal kid that he didn't know what day of the week it was, but on Saturdays he will wake up, he will look for his life vest, he will go to his dad's room and throw it to him like we are going to the beach. So he knew when Saturdays were.
So you have no choice, Dad. We're going to the beach.
And I'll tell you another story from that parent, and he will laugh. He's going to listen to this one. He's like, thank you for giving me the night spat with my wife. Because there's something that people don't know, but sleeping parents, kids with autism are not good. They wake up a lot, and sometimes families tend to get the kid then into the room, or one of the parents will be sleeping with them just to make sure nothing's happening. Some of them will have seizures also, and you have to pay attention. But this kid, he didn't have seizures, but he wake up a lot of nights. And when he starts surfing, because of what's happening neurologically, also, the sleeping parents were getting much better. And now he was able to be back with his wife at his bed. It's so funny. Yeah, we like to talk about everything. And another thing, and sorry I didn't say before because for me it's super important. Something else that happened, and it was not planned in our program, is the families starting supporting each other.
Yes, that's key.
That support group, and it built by itself. It was very beautiful to see it. Just to see that us taking these families there, none of these families knew each other, start bonding, start relating, and start getting better together. And that created like a very, very solid group of families that represent our organization. And what I started doing, I started asking parents with some skills to be part of our board of directors.
Nice.
We always want to keep our north very clear. And I want my organization to transcend myself. I don't want Surf4Dem to be Giovanni Martinez.
Mm-hmm.
I want Surf4Dem to be what it is, a 501c3 nonprofit organization that provides surf therapy to kids, adolescents, and adults with autism or other developmental delays. And I want that to be there for as many years as it could be. And I feel that having a board of directors with families that have the experience, but also have a kid with autism will really, really always keep that north aligned. And that's one of the strategies that we have used to maintain it fresh, but also to maintain it very directed to our population in terms of our organization.
Oh, that's perfect. Thank you so much. Thank you very much, Giovanni. Okay, so I pretty much know the answers to these questions already. Every single person I ask these questions, they always give me usually the same answers, but I'm going to ask them anyway, just to see just to see the look on your face when you answer them. Okay, really fast fire question. First one, what's your favorite pre-surf and post-surf meal?
Pre-surf and post-surf meal.
Mhm.
I usually don't do breakfast if I'm coffee, black coffee. I'm a coffee drinker, full. I think that's the only thing that I depend on. My black coffee. I actually drink it with I don't put even sugar in it.
Oh,
and
wow.
it's very normal in Puerto Rico. We call it puya.
Okay.
So I usually drink coffee. Well, let me say this. Sorry. When I wake up, I always drink water.
Okay.
If I have a lime, we will have a couple drops. If I don't have a lime, I'll put some pink salt on it, a little bit, just a pinch of it, because it will help me hydrate and then I'll get my coffee. Okay. If I have to eat, like let's say, look, I'm going to be in the water and I know 6 hours, 7 hours, I'll eat fruits.
Okay.
I'm a super, we do have accessible. Right now we have things around us that we can eat. It's very common in Puerto Rico to have access to fruits. Post, I love fish and vegetables. I also eat meat. I'll tell you this. I try not to eat meat, but my body kind of needs it. But I don't eat any kind of meat. If I eat meat, I'll eat grass-fed, something good and not super cooked. It will be something like medium. But if I have access to seafood and vegetables, that will be my favorite meal.
Giovanni, you're breaking the stereotype here because surfers are only supposed to eat pizza and burritos. That's what they say. That's what they say we eat.
I actually, if I have to eat that, I'll eat it. But no, not at all.
No, I'm right there with
a lot.
you. Yeah.
At home, I'm the one more responsible. My wife knows how to cook, but kind of do it better. And it's okay. We understand that at home, and I cook a lot. My young kid, the one who's here with us, he has a lot of allergies. So I'm very attentive to what we eat.
Nice.
So I pay a lot of attention to that. I'll tell you that I didn't pay that much attention when I was an adolescent.
You're growing,
At that point, we eat whatever we had.
Exactly.
You know, I remember at some point eating only avocados because that's the only thing that we had, nothing else, you know, or something like that. Getting the coconuts from the palm trees because we didn't even have something else. But now we're doing better, you know, and of course now I can choose what I eat.
It's funny you speak about that. So, with the other people that I've interviewed, and when I ask them that question and I say, okay, what's your favorite pre-surf meal? The majority of people say the same thing. I don't eat before I surf. Usually I'll have like a big bottle of water. I'll put some salt in it. If I don't have the salt, I may put some lime or some lemon in it. I can guarantee you 9 out of 10 people have told me that every single time. And that's what we have and that's what we go on. And I think that a lot of the world doesn't realize that, you know, I've seen people swig Gatorade and say, oh, I need the electrolytes. You can get that from salt. Just put some salt and some lemon in your water and you have the exact same thing.
It is.
And it's not coming in a plastic bottle with tons of sugar or anything like that and artificial flavors. Just get some water, some lemon, and a pinch of salt, and you're good to go.
I think surfers, and I call a surfer somebody that is active in the area of going to the water.
Right.
At some point, you really want to take care of your body and your mind.
Yeah.
Because I want to do it the rest of my life.
Exactly.
This is a sport that I know somebody in Puerto Rico is 82 years and he goes to the beach every single week and surf.
Wow.
Yes, of course, he's in the longboard.
Yeah.
He's still surfing. I look at him, I'm like, I hope.
That's the dream.
When I'm 82, I'm exactly doing what you're doing right now. I want to be, I don't say I want to be like you, but I would say I want to be able to do that.
I hope when I'm 82, there's somebody sitting down next to me looking at me like, I hope when I'm 82, I can do exactly what you're doing. Like, really hope.
In some point when I was a young kid, I was like, I don't think I'm going to be able to do this in the long run, but I'm 45 already. I feel like I'm 20s or 30s when I'm in the water.
Exact, same here.
I'm full of energy with the same drive. Maybe I don't have the same drive for the huge waves I used to have before because I know consequences, of course.
Yeah.
But I still very driven to surfing like competitive waves. And last week we had a very good swell. It was 8 to 10 foot face, it's barreling. I was really happy that day. Astonished when I was like, yes, finally. It took a lot of hours that day in the water. People don't understand that one also. It's like, do you use sunblock? I'm like, yes. Why are you so burned? I'm like, because I've
been in the water.
Put the sunblock, but I didn't spend 5 or 6 hours straight. And people are like, how many hours? I'm like, yes. And healthy wise, in terms of, doing exercise, who is able to sustain doing exercise for 5 or 6 hours straight, and surfing is something that also gives you that ability.
Yeah, I mean,
yes, of course you're going to rest at some point. You're paddling, you're
like
done.
It's again, the data is there that surfers, we have a better and larger lung capacity than the majority of the population.
Of course.
And in addition to that, our resting heart rate, if you measure it, like the average resting heart rate for an average person is somewhere, between 60 plus.
Okay.
On somebody who's been surfing, let's say, for about 10 years constantly, their resting heart rate is anywhere between 55 to 40.
Impressive.
And Olympic athlete, theirs is 30 to 40. With Olympic athletes.
I didn't know that one.
Yeah.
Wow.
Usain Bolt, his resting heart rate is 33. The average surfer, their resting heart rate is anywhere from 50 to 40. Somewhere around there.
Very impressive.
So, and we just take it, well, I don't know, I was just surfing.
Of course.
We just surf, that's what we do.
Well, people tell me, how do you train? And I surf a little bit more.
I surf.
There's no better training for surfing than the actual surf. Yes, of course, you can do other things to have your shoulders a little bit stronger and be more flexible in terms of yoga or stretching. Stretching is really super important for surfing. More than being
big
muscle guy, you need to be more flexible.
Exactly.
But it's surfing. So when I was a competitive surfer, I trained. I went surfing a little bit more. And people will be like, really? More? Yes, almost every day. Yes, at some point in my life, I went because I do have the access.
Yeah.
Now I do have a lot more responsibilities. I'm not able to go every single day.
Yeah.
And even though I think if I do like a really big effort, I'll be at least 4 days a week in the water. But mostly now it's between 2 or 3 if it's a good week of surf. If not, I'll have a lot of work and I'll just focus on my work.
I have a friend who always says to me that when the big waves coming through, he'll look at it and he goes, I want to come out of the water and say I surfed, not I survived. And he's like, I'm good with that. How big is it? 13 feet? I'm good. I'll set it up. I'm good. I want to come out of the water and say, hey, I surfed.
I was able to surf.
I survived. No. And one last fast fire question I have for you. I know the answer to this already because everyone gives the same answer. We're going to ask it anyway. Would you rather surf 3 to 4 feet in warm or 6 to 8 barreling but cold?
I'm a sucker for barrels.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And
I didn't know the answer to that. Okay.
Yeah. And I don't mind cold water as many people do. Actually, I was able to go to South Africa for the ISO conference and I was able to surf Jeffreys Bay. But I'll tell you another answer. I prefer to surf smaller waves with my friends than a crowd, than bigger waves with a crowd. That will be the click because barrels I love. If you offer me barrels, I'll say yes. It doesn't matter if it's an Antarctic. Hey, I'll go there, get the barrel. But if it's between just going out there and having a blast with my friends, or having great waves where I have to struggle really bad, like pipeline,
Right.
pipeline. Yes, of course. You want to measure yourself as a surfer. If you are at such a competitive mindset at some point, you're going to go there. You want to measure yourself.
Actually, yeah.
And it was a great experience to surf pipe. I'll tell you that. I'm never going to forget that. But I prefer to surf some beach down here on my island with few people and not having that size and that barrel with that crazy crowd. It's so hectic, You kind of take surfing the appreciate area of the art of just enjoying what you're doing a little bit out, because you have to fight for a wave. You have to be with your teeth out, like, no, this is slide. And there's a hierarchy. You have to be paying attention to who's paddling to the wave. It's very hectic. So I prefer to surf in a non-hectic environment. That will be my answer.
Okay.
Yes, of course.
Oh, great. Thank you. I didn't expect that answer, but hey, that's why we're here. Great. Okay, so at the point now, do you have any questions that you'd like to ask me? Pitch it back, because I've been pretty much interviewing you for like almost an hour at this point.
Well,
anything you want to ask me?
Even though I know we met last year in California, actually it was 2022. In California, we didn't have the space and time to maybe develop a little more. I was invited to Rincon, and I can say no to that. I was like, we finished, and the last day was the event on the beach, so I had to go to Rincon. I'm like, sorry guys, I'm going to Rincon.
I gotta go. When I gotta go.
What motivated you to? And I'm really glad that we have people like you in our board. We need that diversity. We need all these point of views different in there. So what motivated you to be part of it? So because I know that even we are having very good results worldwide, we are new. We are like a child still in terms of an organization. We have been able to do a lot in a few years, which is something very astonishing that AIDS has been able to do. But what drove you? What gave you that? Yes, I want to be part of this organization, and even more than being part of the organization, I want to be part of the group that makes decisions for the organization.
So it started off really. So in 2022, when Bishop invited me to come down to California and said, I'm giving this discussion, giving this talk. Kwame, I'd love if you come, because I can't imagine giving this talk without you. Given that this for this organization called ISTO, I need you to come there to talk. So I really was like, oh God, California, how far that is. Can I do it on Zoom? But eventually I was like, all right, fine. I need to get out of New York right now, because it just so happened that the day that we were speaking was also my birthday. I was like, I am not in the mood to be in New York on my birthday, because that year my mom had just passed away. And I was like, I don't want to be here to deal with this. So I need to go someplace new, experience something new. So I went. So I walked in, and as I walked in, I got tackled by Chris. Literally, someone just grabbed me from the back, and I'm like, who the hell?
That's
what is going on? What's happening here?
That's a good description.
Yeah, so just tackled me from the back, and I'm like, oh, okay. I guess we're hugging. Okay, hey. And then we got up there and we spoke. And the questions that people were asking me and were talking to me about, at that point in my life, I mean, I knew it existed, and I had experienced like some bits and pieces of it. Like, I'll speak to one person on one day about something academic with surfing. I'll speak to another person another day about research and data. And I'll speak to a third person like 4 weeks later about something. But up until that point, I had never experienced speaking to people about research and data and the academic side of surfing and just the scientific part of surfing all in the same room. And that blew my mind.
Oh, nice.
I was like, oh, there are others out there like me. Because, you tell someone, I was having a conversation with somebody about the hydrodynamics of a board. And they'll just look at you like, what? Come on, you're a surfer. What do you mean? You don't even wear shoes half the time. What are you talking about? So being able to be in a room with people speaking about therapy and surf therapy and how it impacted them and how they impact the community, that completely blew my mind. Then fast forward when Chris came to me and she said, Kwame, we talked about it and we want you to join the board. And my response to her was, are you sure? She's like, yes. You don't know what I can actually give you guys with this as far as therapy. And I mean, I surf and computer science. Again, you sure you know about this? She's like, yes, we all know, but we want you to join the board. We're not asking you to join the board because of your credential. We're asking you to join the board because of who you are. And that statement right there had me like, okay, these people really are not just a board who sit around the table and go, okay, here's what we're going to do. Here's what we're going to do. They actually are people who get out there and move.
Look, I still
do
get
the work.
How do you call this chicken skin? Goosebumps?
Yeah.
Bad translation.
Yeah. No. I've heard people say chicken skin as well. And yeah, that's what, and I said, okay, you know what? Yes, I will absolutely do this. And I have not regretted it ever. For the short time I've been on the board, I have enjoyed it for the entire time, the conferences. I know it's a lot of work because I'm involved with it now as well.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work that happens. But then also bringing in other organizations into it and saying, hey, guess what? You're not the only ones who are trying to do this. There's this whole group of people over here who are doing just the same thing. And then using whatever platform I have, like even like with this, with the podcast, introducing you to the world. Because like I said, I know Surf4Dem is out there already, but I know, like, even, was it today? Yeah, today. So I was surfing over at Wilderness.
Yeah.
Today. And I met this guy who I know he's from Rockaway, but he's native Puerto Rican.
Okay.
And he comes down every now and goes back and forth. And he asked me, he's like, oh, so what are you doing for the rest of the day? I said, oh yeah, I'm interviewing Dr. Giovanni Martinez. He runs this organization, Surf4Dem. They work with autistic kids. And his eyes just opened up wide. And his wife was like, really? How do we get in touch with him? How can we work with him? How can we do this? I said, well, okay, I'm going to put out the podcast first. And then I'll put all the links, everything I can in the show notes. And then you guys can reach out to him. And his name is Fernando. He said, yeah, I'll be here. I'm leaving in about a week, but I'm coming back for another 4 months. And then, oh no, I'll reach out to him and see what I can do to help. And even the gentleman who let me stay in his place where we are right now, I was speaking to him on the phone. His name is Carlos. And he was like, oh, okay, send me his information because I want to link up with him. I want to talk to him. I want to see how we can help, how we can work with this, because this sounds amazing. So just that alone, knowing that that's what I can bring this and put, organizations like yours out there and let people know, hey, there are organizations out there that exist that can help you, that are here for you. It's not, you don't have to shell out thousands upon thousands of dollars to try to get the help you need. They are here to help you out. Then my job is done.
No, and thank you, because we do need more exposure. Yeah. Doesn't matter how long we have been here or how many efforts we have tried to be met worldwide. Every single opportunity that we have, we always say yes. Or also, we want people to know about our program. And I'm not expecting everybody to know about the program. I know that we need to also be more exposed. In Puerto Rico, we have been able to go a lot to the TV and newspapers, which are the two mediums on radio that people have a lot of access to it.
Right.
And that will kind of help us a lot. I did have the same experience that you had when I went to South Africa. When I got invited, I was really excited just to really met with people that were like-minded. I thought I was alone also, like very alone in this world doing this. And it was really excited and actually motivated me a lot.
Yeah.
That experience I had in South Africa to meet people with the same passion, drive, and doing research. I thought I was the only one, doing it. I was like, oh, wait. If you have the data, I have this data, and we start putting it together.
Let's collaborate. Let's work on
and then we that conversation started like improving. And then Gregor one day was like, we have to publish this.
Yes.
And for most people don't know, we do have a project. It was published in 2021. We did a special issue on community psychology, and we were able to publish the 11 best studies IRB approved on surf therapy in a special issue. So for organizations or people that want more data on surf therapy, valid ones, they can have access to that professional magazine.
Excellent.
That gives us more validity. Remember, going back to the theme that surfing is a pastime and a beach bum, and we need to. We have a saying in Spanish, and I'll try to translate it.
No, say it in Spanish.
Okay, hay que aprender a desaprender.
Okay.
So sometimes we learn some things, but we have to learn how to let that aside and learn again because it was told in the wrong way or it wasn't validated. And so hay que aprender a desaprender, and that's something that it was one of our missions also, as I told you, to break stereotypes.
Right.
In our research study, one of the variables that we put out there is like, look, this is educated people with a salary, parents, very responsible people. Now, what do you think? That is something that is not working, not studying, just spending the whole day at the beach. Well, if you want to send me a check of at least $5,000 a month, I'll just, I'm gladly doing that, but not happening. No, I'm just joking. I love my work. And I also feel that in my office, I do a lot of good things. My clinical evaluations are free for families. I was able to access federal funds through the Department of Education to do those evaluations for free for every single family that goes to my office.
Nice.
And it took a couple of years. That's nothing that happened overnight, but yes. And we are trying to take money away from the formula in order to people just be able to receive service and being able to participate and not money be the status quo if I receive or not a service, and it was hard, but doing well.
Doing well.
Okay.
So, Gio, thank you so much.
No, thank you.
I really appreciate you.
Thank you.
I really appreciate you coming and agreeing to be on the podcast. And, I say this every single time, but it's an honor. It's like you guys to be with you guys and working with Isto and working with folks like you who are actually doing the work out there. Not just, we mean to do this, but it didn't work out, so I'm just going to go do something. Because I know it could not have been easy. But there were days when it was hard, but you kept going. And I know, like you said, how many families? So, approximately?
Surf4Dem have been able to provide services to more than 5,000 families.
5,000
in
families.
Puerto Rico.
More than 5,000 families.
Which is a lot.
So that's a lot. That's a really a lot.
And we want to do more.
Yeah.
We feel that this is just a start of our organization. I know there's like cycles. This is the first cycle, first 10 years. And I hope Surf4Dem as a nonprofit keeps growing and be able to provide more services for people internationally also. Well, Hobos.
Yes.
We have a very beautiful and special place down there that can accommodate anybody that wants to come down here to Puerto Rico. So yes, this is also extending an invitation to families outside of the island to know that they do have access to surf therapy in a very professional way down here in Puerto Rico.
Excellent. So again, like I said, I'm going to put all the information in the show notes. And people, please, if you are coming down to Puerto Rico and you decide you're going to go surf, reach out to Giovanni because, it's always good to give something back to the community that's providing you this accessibility to surf. And if you are a family that requires services, again, reach out to them because they're here. He can definitely help you out. So Giovanni, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
It's my pleasure, man.
Appreciate it.